Coming up on today's Wrestling News, the real reason WWE suspended Gunther. We've got Charlotte Flair talking about still wanting to be a babyface. There's more on Mariah May to WWE, and TNA are setting historic records. I'm Michael Hamflett. This is San Francisco, and this is the news. And we start with Gunther, of course, a week after losing the World Heavyweight title to Jey Uso at WrestleMania 41. I'm still reliving it every single day. Gunther was, of course, suspended by WWE in kayfabe as a result of the attack on Pat McAfee and Michael Cole on the post-WrestleMania edition of Monday Night Raw. He was raging, having lost the title, and with the commentators laughing at him, he was basically taking out the revenge he felt was necessary. But there is more to the story behind the scenes than what we saw take place on television. Gunther apparently asked WWE for some time off in the aftermath of WrestleMania and was granted that. Subsequently, he's now been obviously taken off television as part of a punishment. Gunther had been obviously running pretty hard up and down the roads as World Heavyweight Champion. He made several defences, and this was off the back of a similar reign as the Intercontinental Champion, where he broke the Honky Tonk Man's record ending in 2024 at last year's WrestleMania. So basically, over the last sort of 3 to 4 years as a full-timer within WWE, it's probably the longest consistent run of Gunther's career, where he's working all the time. He's been in a big, high-profile role, and there's probably no better time if you're Gunther to take time off as well. The character is seen as one of the more dominant in all of the company, and whenever he's taken a big loss previously, it's been under some of the brightest lights, and he's kind of struggled in the aftermath to pull himself back around. Acting out on Raw is part of that, and now he'll presumably be off television while he gets his time off, and also the character itself gets to kind of rehabilitate and refine its aura. I assume when he comes back, Jey Uso and many others like him are going to struggle and suffer the wrath of the former World Heavyweight Champion. And speaking of suffering the wrath in WWE, we move over to somebody else that was unsuccessful at WrestleMania in a title match, that being Charlotte Flair. And still, considering that we saw what happened post-Royal Rumble when Charlotte Flair tried to get on the nice side of the divide but was immediately booed as part of her welcome back to WWE, she still wants to be a babyface. I mean, I want to live in San Francisco, but we can't all get what we want, yeah? She was speaking to People magazine, and this was an interview conducted slightly before WrestleMania, but she was obviously speaking about the potential future of the character in the aftermath of her match with Tiffany Stratton. And she said, quote, "On the opposite side of WrestleMania, I think I will tap more into that and try and bring me, Ashley, the real person, to Charlotte, because I do feel like Charlotte isn't the character I made, is not relatable." She kind of added saying, "If I could be Charlotte in my real life, I would. In reality, if I wasn't here right now, I'd be in sweats watching old episodes of Sex and the City. But no, I feel like at this stage of my career, I'd like to pull the curtain back a little bit further and show them, hey, I've been this hardcore dominant beep for a little while, but I'd like to be able to high-five the kids while I walk down the aisle." Understandable, obviously, for Charlotte Flair. At this point, a 10-year main roster star with all of that NXT history behind her, as well as all the history with the Four Horsewomen, record-setting women's champion within WWE, but somebody that has kind of struggled to find her footing since making that Rumble return. And truthfully, the same could be said for her time under Triple H's creative regime. She obviously suffered a pretty serious injury that took her out of action for the fat end of a year, while WWE was experiencing this incredible, unexpected boom period, and hasn't really yet kind of found her voice as a character in this new era of WWE. The match with Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania was what it was, but truthfully, the conversation will always be about the build, will always be about the two seemingly unable to get on the same page in the build to WrestleMania. It was shoot season on SmackDown more than once, but ultimately Tiffany Stratton did go over. Both wore the kind of the pink and the blue gear at WrestleMania, seemingly illustrating a passing of the torch, even if that maybe wasn't quite the case. And maybe now Charlotte Flair, I guess, wants to try and have a go at the babyface. Let us know in the comments below if you would find it in your heart to cheer the eminently hateable Charlotte Flair if she was going to let a bit of the real person eventually out of the box, in the same way Tiffany walked right out of one at WrestleMania 41. And speaking of potential huge shifts and changes in the WWE Women's Division, we move to Mariah May. There was all the speculation in the build-up to WrestleMania that Mariah May could be done with AEW. Fantastic send-off, if so. The feud with Toni Storm, critically acclaimed, ending with the Hollywood ending match back at Revolution in what will still be in Match of the Year conversations come this December. But that could be it. That could be her swan song in the final curtain. And Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez were talking a little bit more about this on a recent Wrestling Observer Radio. They were kind of addressing the speculation and the rumour in the end that a lot of discussion had taken place on Mariah May. And from Meltzer specifically, he said, quote, "I know from people in WWE, they know she wants to go there. I don't know when her contract is up. Everyone seems to think it's this summer. Brian Alvarez added, I was given the impression it's a 2-year deal that she signed originally, so you can do the math. The math gal can trick. I have heard the same thing, at least in AEW, there's a belief she's heading to WWE. So yeah, Mariah May in WWE. A lot of debate, I guess, on what more she could have done in AEW, and may still do. This is, we're not confirming a transfer or a full-on move at this point, but certainly the character was kind of married to Toni Storm in storylines from the very beginning. If you remember, she arrived in AEW in late 2023. A rarity for All Elite Wrestling, where it was as much for a woman about the character development rather than immediately just getting on the treadmill and going for a title shot. And for the longest time, she held off the turn that we all kind of saw coming on Toni. It was at the after winning the 2024 Owen Hart Cup that she revealed her evil plan, and then she would go on to defeat Toni Storm for the women's title at All In at Wembley Stadium. She then went on to hold it, had several successful defences, but would lose it back to Toni in Australia, where the two were given the main event of Toni's homecoming for Grand Slam. And then finally, of course, the aforementioned Hollywood ending in what will still go down as one of the matches of the year. So it's a good CV. It's a good sort of reason, I guess, for WWE to take an interest, and maybe they believe they can develop her. We've seen kind of mixed results for someone like a Jade Cargill coming over, having had a similar, pretty successful but tunnel-visioned run in All Elite Wrestling where she did one thing. I wouldn't necessarily say that WWE's development of Jade has been a great deal stronger, though she did get a WrestleMania singles match. She is still embroiled in a program related to what she's done from the very beginning. Bianca Belair teased returning to SmackDown to deal with some business, and one assumes that down the line that could be between Naomi and Jade Cargill all over again. So I guess Mariah may kind of stand a chance in this revived WWE. WWE would probably like a pat on the back for yet another, in their minds, AEW failure turned into a success story. We've seen the likes of Ethan Page become NXT champion. There's been Ricky Saints recently, the North American champion in NXT, and one only look at the main roster this week to see the returns of Rusev on the Raw after WrestleMania, the arrival, or the return, I guess, of Aleister Black, the former Malachi Black, who had mixed runs in All Elite Wrestling, truth be told, and are now coming back with all the bells and whistles. Mariah May has never had that first WWE run, so she'd certainly be there'd be a certain newness, a certain box fresh to Mariah May, and she does sort of feel like a natural rival to someone like a Tiffany Stratton. Maybe Charlotte Flair could have a similar kind of like-for-like run against her as well. But in the meantime, speaking of another AEW wrestler who is kind of getting about everywhere else since coming to WWE, Ethan Page will be part of the TNA World title match against current TNA World Champion Joe Hendry, and we all said his name and he appeared at WrestleMania, and Frankie Kazarian at Rebellion. But Rebellion will be, for TNA, a historic milestone. There was news basically broken, first of all, by PW Insider that said, quote, the event is set to have the most tickets sold and to house the biggest live attendance of any TNA event in more than 10 years. It's been an interesting, well, not an interesting decade, an interesting life for Total Nonstop Action, formerly Impact Wrestling, formerly TNA. But Joe Hendry, as its world champion, seems to be reaping rewards, as does, oddly, the ongoing business relationship with WWE. We see regularly full houses, big events, big occasions, all that sort of thing. TNA may never truly be the North American number 2, but certainly they are looking to win something of an optics war with All Elite Wrestling for the big houses, the big crowds, where you're not seeing the black tarp and where you're seeing this idea that just bubbling under the surface, could TNA be the number 2? Probably not. But Joe Hendry at least can make it onto WrestleMania. Ethan Page can flick between the brands. The door seems wide open for the likes of Masha Slamovich to potentially work some NXT and WWE dream matches. And maybe this is all related. TNA, of course, ran a show over last Vegas weekend for WrestleMania. All Elite Wrestling smartly elected not to. So yeah, it does seem like as these TNA records continue to be set and broken, and all of a sudden it feels like there's momentum behind the group, it is worth wondering exactly what more WWE could want from this relationship, other to perhaps continue win an optics one against WWE. But certainly kudos to Joe Hendry, WhatCulture alumni, for yet another impressive achievement that he can absolutely lay claim to as the current world champion. Look out for TNA Rebellion. I think the Nemeth brothers are against the Hardys, and if that doesn't wet your whistle, what possibly can? But yes, thank you very much for joining me on this very special and unique solo weekend news. Once again, here from the beautiful San Francisco, California. It's a little bit rainy, so me and Phil have got some basketball to watch, so we're going to get back to the other kind of the business. And until next time, we will see you soon.